So my image is stamped onto CCD Copic quality 110-pound cardstock with Memento Ink, and I'm starting with the skin first. I've decided my light source is going to be the upper right, so I've laid down a base with the E50, which is my lightest, and I've gone in with the E01, which is just slightly darker, and then I'm adding just the littlest bit of depth to the darkest areas with my E13 marker, and then I'm going to blend it out with the E01. And then I will blend everything together again with the E50 just to remove any lines and to give some consistency to the image. After that I go in with my R20, which is the blush marker, just to add a little bit of color to his cheeks, and I blend that out really well because I don't want him to have like obviously pink cheeks because it's a little boy image. So then I go in and color the neck, same thing. And then here, I'm adding a little bit of kind of depth to the shadows with the BV000 marker. You have to be really light-handed with that marker. Later on, I actually went and blended it out a bit more because the purple was really showing up, and it looks weird if you've ever tried it. So add the tiniest bit, and then if you have to, go back later after everything's dry and blend it out some more so it doesn't show as purple because it'll look like almost like a bruise. So now I'm going on to his hair, which there isn't a whole lot of hair, so this was pretty quick and easy. I decided I wanted to color his hair brown, so I started with that E23 and added that along underneath the hat brim and at the very tips because I want to kind of have a highlight along the middle sections of all the hair. So I went in with the E25 to darken, and then I'm adding E27 just to deepen that some more, and then finally I go in with E29, which is my darkest brown, and just very lightly add that to the very edges. And then I start blending it all back out again. I go in with my E27 and just pull that up and out a little bit more. You have to be kind of really light-handed when you're coloring areas this small so that you don't get too much ink on the image. So then I go in with the E25 and pull it out even further. It's not very hard to blend when you're doing such small areas. And then finally I go in with my E23, my lightest, and just blend that all together. And then I take my E29 and just add a few little like hairs and lines and whatnot just to make it a little more realistic. Yeah, so his hair is done, and now I'm going to go in and color just the hat brim, and I'm using BG72, which is lighter, and then adding the BG75 and blending that out. And I'm leaving the top of his little hat blank because I'm going to paper piece that at the end, so I don't bother coloring it at all. And then I color his little shirt collar the same way, just the BG72, and then adding the depth with the 75 and then blending them together. And for his pants, I decided I wanted to color them a shade of gray, so I chose the warm grays for this image. So I started with my W3 and pulled all the color from the left side because, like I said, my source of light I've decided is coming from kind of the upper right. So I want all my darkest colors concentrated along the left. So yeah, I start with the W3, which is my lightest, add a bit of the W5, and then go in with the W7, and then just go backwards and blend them together. You'll notice I'm not being super precise with my coloring. I already knew I was planning on cutting out this image, so anything that came like bled outside the lines or smeared or whatever, I wasn't too worried about because I'm cutting it anyway. And that's also one of the nice things with these markers and coloring in sections is areas that I've bled through or smeared into other spots, I just push it back with the markers like I had bled through with the pants. So anyway, then I do the same thing with the little boots. I start with my lightest, work to the darkest, and just kind of blend back and forth. Really super simple. Everything is pretty much the same. The only thing I didn't really bother blending was this little ribbon that's tied around the sunflowers because it was so tiny that I just didn't feel there was a need to use multiple colors and shade and whatnot. So I just quickly colored it. The sunflower itself, I started with the Y15 and just lightly and quickly dabbed that on to the petals, added a bit of depth with the Y19, which is just slightly darker, and then went over it again with the Y15. And then for the flower, for the center of the sunflower, I started with E15, just quickly put down a little bit of it, added a bit of E19, and then blended them together. And then decided to emphasize the little dots on it with my E29 marker. So yeah, super quick and easy. And then I cut out the image and paper pieced his little hat and his sweater. These are from the Basic Gray, I think it's called Pyrus, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But yeah, I paper pieced his little hat, and you can see just how all of a sudden the image just starts looking finished once you add the final little bits to it. So, and I'm just using my Tombow Mono Multi Glue to glue those into place. And that little teeny spot at the very bottom of his shirt, rather than paper piece it, I just used that blue, the BG75 Copic marker, to just fill it in, and you can't even tell. So, rather than fiddle around with a microscopic size of paper. And then finally, I'm taking my W3 marker just to add a bit of shading to the pattern paper spots so that it kind of goes with the rest of the image, so it's not just floating there and not looking right. So yeah, that's all there is to it, and thanks so much for watching, guys.